Alright, what's up guys? It's Unbreakable Patches here, and today I wanted to go over 10 terms that you should probably know about fighting games if you want to take it to a more serious level, or if you just want to enjoy watching some tournaments and stuff like that and understand what the commentators are talking about. Because there's a lot of crazy terms that get thrown around like meaties, cross-ups, okazeme, fuzzy guards, stuff like that, which is really abstract if you don't know you don't already know what the terms mean and stuff like that. So I'm going to go over my 10 most important terms, I think, that you should know in fighting games. Alright, so for number one, we're going to start out with the most basic and common one you're going to hear, which is cancels. Canceling, all that is super simple. It's just doing a move, like a punch or a jab or a kick, something like that. Which, by the way, this isn't really a thing in Tekken unless you're playing like a 2D character. But essentially you would do a move, and directly after the move, you would do a special move like a fireball, or like fire breath, or a teleport, or something like that, directly after the string, with no gap in between. So it would be like bam bam fireball, bam bam fireball. It would be something like that, where you do it immediately with no break. There would be no gap, no time for your opponent to block or do anything like that in between. That's what a cancel is. So the next thing, which is pretty intimidating for a lot of people, but it shouldn't be, it's really not that complicated, is frame data, or frames. You might hear people saying, oh, that's plus on block, that's negative on block, that's safe, that's not safe. They're talking about frame data. And basically all that is every fighting game that's worth its salt runs at 60 frames a second. If it doesn't run at 60 frames a second, the developers probably don't give a fuck about that game ever being competitive. So in my opinion, you should stay away from it, but hey, to each their own. If you enjoy it, you enjoy it. So frame data is typically 60 frames a second, like I said. So all that means is one frame equals 1/60th of a second. So for example, this move has a startup 10 frames. So it takes 10 frames for this move to get out and actually do any damage. For the first 10 frames, this move is nothing. Even though her fist is moving, if they run into it, they'll take no damage. And then after those 10 frames, we reach the activation, or active state of the move. That's when the move is actively doing damage. If you touch it, you're going to get hurt. That's all the active frames mean. So the move is actually doing damage, it's dangerous, and you want to be careful. Next, we have the recovery frames. This is what it sounds like. You're recovering after the attack. Just think about in real life when you throw a punch, that startup frames would be like the cock back of the punch, right? The active frames would be, the time where the fist is moving through space, doing damage. And the recovery frames would be, the follow through or the pullback or whatever, something like that. So that's all the frames mean. So if somebody says something is negative on block, they mean that the person who did the move is at a disadvantage, and the person who got attacked, since they blocked the move, is going to be able to move before they can. And if they say it's safe, that means the move might still be negative, but it's not negative enough where the opponent gets a free move. So you can still block. So basically if somebody says something's safe on block, you can block it, or you can block any attack you want after they block your attack. I hope that makes sense. But frames and frame data is not to be confused with just frames, which isn't going to get its own number, but in some games it's a thing. In Tekken it's a thing, but I don't think either of these characters have. Heihachi might, I don't know, I don't play. But for example, we're going to use this move as an example. This is not a just frame attack, we're going to say it is. So let's say you can hit this move, which is just forward 3-2. And you can hit it anytime you want. This is what you'll get. But there's like a 2-frame window, which remember is just 2/60th of a second, where if you hit the 2, the second input, at the perfect timing, you might get special benefits to the move. The move will get special properties where it might knock them back further, it might put them into a grounded state, it might be safe on block, it might just do extra damage. That is a just frame. It's just a move that you get special properties when you hit it with perfect timing. So yeah, that's not to be confused with frame data or frames or plus on block and all that mumbo jumbo. So the next topic which is number 3 on my list, is neutral and footsies. I put them both in the same category because they're kind of the same thing. Footsies is a little different. Neutral is more all-encompassing. Footsies is more specific to like, just, you know, like this range right here. This is the footsies range. If you go any further out, you're kind of in like a zoning range. Yeah, you can do anything you want, but it's still neutral. Neutral just means that you guys are both in a position where both of you have the same opportunity to land, evade, or whatever an attack that you want. You guys both have the same opportunities. You guys can both move just as well as each other. You guys can both land attacks if you want. You play a 3D game, you know, you can sidestep or whatever you want to do. That's all that neutral means. But typically, when people talk about neutral in fighting games, they're talking about how do you apply your neutral, which is how do you go from a neutral position to a position where you're in advantage. And there's a lot of ways to do that. We're going to get into that in a second. But yeah, that's typically what they're talking about. Is how do you going from a neutral position to a position where you're in advantage or you're dealing damage. So a lot of things that you'll hear about in neutral, which is where the majority of the mind games take place, is the first thing is going to be pokes. You're going to hear about pokes. Pokes are just real quick attacks. Maybe that one's like this example. Where you're going to throw them out. They come out really fast, and they don't linger. So they're completely safe, and they're hard to deal with. Basically, you just have to block them or get hit by them. But typically, pokes don't really do a lot of damage either. So it's not the end of the world if you're getting hit by pokes unless you're really low on health, or they're just doing a lot of them. The next thing that'll help you get into a strategic position from the neutral is mix-ups, which is probably the most important one of them all in my opinion. And it's very largely encompassing. There's a lot of other terms that can fall under the mix-ups category as well. So mix-up is basically a situation where you're putting your opponent in where they have to guess what move you're going to do next. This move right here is a good example. So once I reach this state after this move, and Master Raven has a ton of options, but the two classic options that we're going to use for this example is I can hit 1+2, and I can do this leg sweep. They have to crouch to block that, or else they're going to get sweeped every time. And then I can apply Oki, which we'll get to that in a second, from that move. Or there's another move. I can do this, and if they start blocking low, they start getting me every time, you know, punishing me for trying that. I can do this, and that's a mid. They have to block that standing. So that makes a mind game or a mix-up, or also known as a 50-50. 50-50s are just basically situations where you got one of two options. You guess right, you get some damage. They guess right, they block your move, can sometimes punish it, usually can punish it. Or if they don't block your move, you know, they get hit and all that good stuff. You get to continue to crush you. So yeah, basically 50-50s in summary is basically just a situation where you're making mix-ups. I mean, in summary, are a situation where you're making your opponent guess what attack is going to come next, and if they guess wrong, they're going to eat some damage. All right, so another way to go from neutral to an advantageous position is going to be zoning. Zoning is not really a prominent thing in Tekken. I mean, some characters can do it, but only bitch-made characters. So yeah, I'm not really going to be able to show you that because I'm not a bitch. I don't play those characters. But basically, I mean, that's not necessarily true. Zoning isn't always projectiles. Zoning is commonly, or projectile-based combat is commonly referred to as zoning. But really what zoning is controlling a space, which is pretty easy to do with projectiles. Like for example, you're shooting fireballs, you're controlling that whole middle area of the screen. They have to either block that, or I guess they can try to jump over it in most 2D games. But that is a way to zone. But really you can do it with anything. So let's pretend Heihachi has no range at all, and he can only do little jab moves. So like that's his max range. If I could zone him, if that's all he was capable of, with a move, maybe if he faced the right direction, like this. Now, this is a long range move. Technically I'm controlling the space in front of me. That's still zoning. So zoning is just controlling the space on the screen. Being dominant in that space And yeah, that's pretty much it. So the next one, which I have listed as number 7, so I haven't been listing the numbers off for each one, is cross-ups. Now cross-ups are not like super prominent in Tekken. They do exist, but they're character specific and they're hard to do. But basically what a cross-up is forcing your opponent to switch their block to the other side. So in most fighting games, you block by holding backwards or down back. And then a cross-up would mean that they would usually jump to the other side of you, or teleport, depending on the game, and then hit you from the other side, which means that you would have to switch from blocking this way to blocking this way. So if you're not ready, this is also a mix-up, or a 50. It's not really 50-50, it's more of a mix-up. I guess it's a 50-50, I don't know. It's a cross-up. Usually in 2D fighters, cross-ups refer to jumping over your opponent and then hitting them in the back of the head as you pass over their center axis, which is just something that you have to really quickly adjust your guard to, and if you're not quick, if you're not ready for it, you're going to get hit and then get opened up. And it's a great way to hit somebody and open them up also. So that's another great way, or great concept to apply when you're in the neutral situation. So next up, things are going to start to get a little more complicated and specific. The next one is okazeme, or okasime, I don't know how you pronounce it. It's a Japanese word, and we refer to it by the Japanese word because there's not really a word for it in English. Basically, it's the concept of punishing somebody for trying to get off the ground, if that makes sense. So when somebody's in a grounded state, and they try to get up, you want to mollywop them and make them think twice about how they just got up off the ground, make them try something else. That's kind of the concept behind okazeme. I call it oki. Most people call it oki. But that's kind of the concept. You want to fuck somebody up for trying to get off the ground. One way to apply oki, which brings us to number 9, is meaties. Now, meaty attacks are, I don't know where that name came from, but it's pretty cool. I like it. Are basically a kind of advanced technique where when somebody's on the ground and they're rising up off the ground to get back into a neutral, it's not like neutral, but they're trying to get to a neutral situation. Immediate would be where you throw out an attack while they're on the ground, while they're rising, with the very end of your active frames. So at the very end of this kick, they'd get up and get hit by one of the last active frames of the attack. Basically all this would do is give me more advantage, so I can act even quicker after that move recovers than I'd normally be able to. Because I skipped half of the active frames of that move. I only hit it with the last active frames. So they have to deal with all the hits done, but I only have to deal with some of the active. It's kind of a more advanced thing. But basically, it's just hitting somebody with an attack, leaving an attack out on the field that when they rise, they run into it. That's the basic description for it. So the final one, this is more of a complicated one, and it's different in every fighting game. How it's done is different in every fighting game, but typically it's called fuzzy guard. Fuzzy guard is the last one, number 10. And fuzzy guarding is a technique. I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying to do this in Tekken because I don't know how to. I do know how, but I never have practiced fuzzy guarding in Tekken before. But in Tekken, for example, it is a technique that allows you to block both mid and low at the same time. But it only allows you to do it for a split second, so you have to time it perfect with the opponent's attack. And it sounds cheap, it kind of is, but the way that it's balanced out is it's hard to do. And it's not really applicable in every situation. It only works in certain situations in Tekken. But like in DBZ, for example, you can fuzzy guard just by jumping. And that once you're in the air, lows and highs, mids and overheads aren't really a thing anymore. Everything is just hitting you from one direction. So you just jump and press back and you're fuzzy guarding. So yeah, that's kind of like a more complicated one, but will hear that sometimes when you're watching tournaments. Oh, that was fuzzy guard. You blocked that with a fuzzy guard or whatever. It basically just means it's an advanced technique that allows you to block from 2 different angles at once that you're technically not allowed to do. So it's a way to negate your opponent's 50-50s, basically. So yeah, that's the 10 most important fighting games that I could think of off the top of my head. Fighting game terminology that I could think of off the top of my head. So yeah, I hope you guys appreciated the video. This is a little bit different than most ones I do. Usually I like write out a script and everything like that. This time I just kind of wrote down 10 terms and talked about them as I went through. Hopefully it worked out better and it's a little bit more natural than some of my other videos. Who knows, who cares? But anyway guys, if you guys love fighting games like I do, and you want to catch me on Twitch, I stream at Unbreakable_PatchesTV on Twitch. If you guys want to go over there and drop a follow, it would be greatly appreciated. And you can catch me playing some fighting games. I also usually stream to YouTube as well though. So if you hate Twitch for whatever reason, you just want to stick to YouTube, you can catch me streaming on YouTube as well usually. I try to stream 5 days a week, blah blah blah. I stream a lot. Hope to see you guys there. And hopefully I help some of you guys out by learning fighting games. Hopefully I can bring some of you guys in, make you feel less uncomfortable playing fighting games, make you feel more knowledgeable. Because honestly, that's the biggest battle, is just starting a fighting game. Starting to actually try to learn. So that's my goal. I want to help people learn. And if you guys have any ideas or any problems with learning fighting games, let me know what they are. Maybe I can make a video on to help you guys out. I'd love to start making more like guides like these to help people learn fighting games, and even like describing my strategies for like neutral and stuff like that, or concepts. That's one of my favorite things about fighting games, like how deep you can go with the strategy and the concepts and all that stuff. Yeah, those would probably be written videos, I don't know. Anyway guys, I've kind of wasted enough of your time just talking random shit. So peace out for now guys, and I hope to see you guys around. Let me know if this video helped you guys learn anything. Drop a like if it did, drop a like if it didn't, leave 10 comments. You guys are the best. Peace out guys.